Boker Tov. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Shavua Tov. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to Raya and Mordechai. We are today mentioning Gimel Tammuz, the third day of Tammuz, which is the Yortzeit of the Rebbe, the day that the Rebbe passed away. And that's why this day is it's a special day. On one hand, it's not an easy day, it's not a simple day. It's a day that we look into our connection to the Rebbe and try and understand what is the connection, how to advance our connection to the Rebbe. We'll talk a bit about Gimel Tammuz, the meaning of Gimel Tammuz, the meaning of the connection between us and the Rebbe, and also in relation to our Parsha. We've got a very interesting Parsha, and it's connected. It's connected to Gimel Tammuz. So there actually is, I would like to begin with one of the Pirkei Tehillim, one of the chapters in Tehillim. There is a chapter, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's chapter number 90. The chapter is Tefillah LaMoshe, Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer. Apparently, at a certain point, Moshe Rabbeinu prayed to Hashem. And the question that Chassidus asks is, what did Moshe Rabbeinu need to pray for? Why did he need to pray? We all know that the actual mitzvah of praying to Hashem is when we need something. The actual mitzvah isn't from the Oraisa, which means what the Torah obligates us to pray is not 3 times a day. The obligation is to pray whenever we need something, whenever we are lacking something. We've got to turn to Hashem and pray. Ask Him to provide us with whatever we need, whatever we are lacking. But Moshe Rabbeinu did not lack anything. So why did he need to pray? That is the question Chassidus asks. And the reason that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't lack anything is A, he had whatever he needed physically. He had the entire pyramid of Maslow, right? We all know that interesting pyramid of Maslow about physical needs, safety, about appreciation, accomplishments. Moshe Rabbeinu had that all. Spiritually, Moshe Rabbeinu also had everything because he was deeply connected to Hashem. He spent all of his day connecting to Hashem, if it was in learning the Torah of Hashem, if it was studying the mitzvahs. So what is the idea behind Tefillah LaMoshe, Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer? And it's not only that, because Moshe Rabbeinu was rich. He had everything, and not only rich with the amount of money that you have in the bank account. We just said in Pirkei Avot on Shabbat, Eizahu Ashir Hasameach Bechelko. The idea of being rich is a person, Ein Ani Ela Badat, Vein Ashir Ela Badat. Chazal teach us that a poor person or a rich person depends, it's up to his mind. Badas. It's all up to his mindset, the way he thinks, the way he looks at things. Because there could be someone that has millions and millions of dollars, but he isn't happy. He doesn't want to spend money. He goes through a whole process of, should I spend this? Should I not spend this? He can't really use his wealth. And there could be someone poor that doesn't have a lot of money, but he's so happy. He has a peaceful feeling. He has a positive mindset. He is satisfied with what he has. And that's the whole difference. So Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't only technically rich, but emotionally rich, spiritually rich. And he was Ashir Bedat. His connection to Hashem provided him with this richness. So the question is, once again, why did he pray? There's actually an interesting story that, by the way, I recommend this book, My Encounter. This one is in Hebrew. This is Hasipur Sheli, My Encounter. Many, many stories about personal, 41 stories actually, about people that met the Rebbe, and they spoke about their own personal needs. It's their own encounter with the Rebbe. Now, there aren't huge miracles flying around, but that's what's so special, because we see the connection that the Rebbe had to many, many people, and the fact that the Rebbe knew also to give basic and simple advice to certain people in any field. If it was a doctor in Brooklyn, the Rebbe told him to move to Queens, where there he'll be more successful because the population will need him and appreciate him. All kinds of very interesting small stories about the personal connection to Jews throughout the world. So there's a very interesting story about one rabbi that went to the Rebbe for the morning of Hoshana Rabbah to receive lekach. What is lekach? Lekach is honey cake. And the Rebbe used to give out honey cake before Rosh Hashanah, before Yom Kippur, and before Simchat Torah, throughout the period of the high holidays. And basically, people used to come by and walk alongside by the sukkah of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe gave them lekach for a sweet honey cake. So this person is walking, and this person is a Satmar Chassid, which was some kind of Chassid from Brooklyn, and in front of him there was a hippie. And this hippie walked towards the Rebbe, and the Rebbe gave him the lekach. And then the Rebbe asked him, "Where are you planning to be tonight for Hakofes? It's Simchas Torah, right? We dance with the Torah tonight." So the Rebbe asked him, "Where are you planning to spend Hakofes?" So this hippie answered the Rebbe, and he told the Rebbe, "I don't know where I'll be or if I'll be. I'm not even sure that I'm going to be there in Hakofes." So once again, he wasn't from per se Orthodox or anything like that, a hippie. So the Rebbe told him, "It will be a great honor to me if you would come and spend Hakofes here in 770 tonight." So the hippie says thank you, and he moves on. And now is the turn of that Satmar Chassid. That Satmar Chassid now goes to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe turns to him and he says, "You probably are wondering, what do I have to do with this hippie? This person is barely frum. It doesn't seem like he's really interested. Well, we should say thank you that he even attended this lekach, this honey cake." And the Rebbe told him like this. He told him, "You are a Satmar Chassid." And there is a special Admor of Satmar, which was one of the previous Satmar Rabbeim. And he wrote a book. His name was Rabbi Moshe Teitelboim. He wrote a book on Tehillim called Tfilah LeMoshe, Moshe's Prayer. And in this book, he describes something very, very interesting. He describes how one of the older tzaddikim met Rashi, the famous commentator on the Chumash, Rashi, and on the Gemara, on the Talmud. And Rashi tells him, you know, there's some big tzaddik down there in the world that everyone considers his opinion. He has a very important place here in the world above. Whatever he says, usually people agree with him. And Rashi asks, well, why? What is so special about him? So this tzaddik's name was Rabbi Michal Mizlotchov. Rabbi Michal Mizlotchov, he has a special song, a special nigun, and we'll talk about this nigun in just a moment. Rashi's question was, well, why is he so important? So they answered him, well, he's important because he learns Torah only for the sake of Hashem, only to connect to Hashem, not for his own personal joy. Rashi didn't say, right? Rashi said, well, this is not enough. There are many, many tzaddikim that learn Torah for the sake of Hashem. So he says, you know what? Maybe it's because he fasts twice a week, Monday and Thursday. Rashi said it can't be. There are many other tzaddikim that also fast, but still there's something so unique and so special about this Rabbi Michal Mizlotchov. So then they answered Rashi. They told him, you know what? It's because of the Ba'alei Tshuva. All those people that he returned to Hashem. He brought them back to Hashem. He brought them back to the way of Yiddishkeit, the way of Judaism. That is so special. And Rashi agreed. Rashi said, that could be definitely the reason. Bringing people to Hashem, people that were far, far away, that is a zchus that is higher than anything else. This is what the Rebbe was telling that Satmar Chassid that just walked by. And he said, in other words, explaining to him the connection to that hippie. The Rebbe wanted to return that hippie, to bring him back. And the story is that that very night, the hippie was in 770 dancing at Hakafes. So that's the story about Tfilah LaMoshe, Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer. And it's so interesting that this vort, this idea, is brought in the book Tfilah LaMoshe, because we asked at the beginning, well, why does Moshe Rabbeinu need to pray? What does Moshe Rabbeinu lack that he is asking from Hashem? The answer is that Moshe Rabbeinu is asking for that hippie. And as the Midrash says, Moshe Rabbeinu saw a little town, a little city. It's a mashal. It's an example that there was a king that had everything in the world. He didn't lack anything, but he saw that there's a small village, a small town that is ruined. And he begs for that town to be rebuilt. That is the idea about Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu for himself, he doesn't need anything. But he asks for someone else. He asks for that Jew that's far away. For that person that isn't necessarily connected to Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu feels that miss. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu asks Hashem, Tfilah LaMoshe, I pray to you, please rebuild this city, or rebuild this person, or help out this other person. That is the true power of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's the true power of a leader, a true leader. And that's what we saw from the Rebbe. That's what we saw from the Rebbe throughout the timeline. The care that he had towards the Jewish nation, towards every and any individual. And it's interesting because it's also connected to our parsha. There are a few other stories that we're going to talk about that bring out this point, this uniqueness. So here was one about the honey cake, the lekach, and this hippie. But let's go into our parsha. Our parsha talks about one of the most important mitzvot, one of the most special mitzvot. What is that mitzvah? Zois chukas ha-Torah v'yikve lecha para aduma, the red half. Very interesting mitzvah. An illogical mitzvah. a mitzvah that does not make sense at all. What is that mitzvah? The mitzvah is that if someone is impure, he's got to go to the Kohen, and the Kohen purifies him. How does he purify him? He takes the ashes of that red harf and he sprays it together with water on that person that was impure. Okay, that's one part of the mitzvah. Doesn't make much sense, but it's not against logic. Well, some kind of procedure that a person that's impure has to go through in order to become pure. But it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there because the kohen that sprays that water and purifies that person, he himself becomes impure. He becomes tamei. How could that be? He is in the process of turning someone into, turning him pure, but it affects him to be impure. How does that work together? If I have the power to, we would think so, if I had the power to make someone else pure, so for sure I've got to be pure and stay pure. That's why this mitzvah is against logic. Doesn't make sense. We can't understand how it works. More than that, Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, he was the wisest person alive, ever. Nevertheless, he said about this mitzvah that it's something that he cannot understand. It's above his logic. Why? Because there's some kind of contradiction here that when I make someone pure, I can't become impure. Doesn't make sense. This mitzvah is a very important mitzvah. Why is it so important? It's not just randomly one of the other mitzvahs, one of the 613 mitzvahs. No, there's something very special here because it's here to show us that basically all of our mitzvahs that we do aren't based only on logic, but we've got to do them because Hashem commanded us. And even if it wouldn't make sense, we would still listen to him. Respecting elderly, respecting our parents, not killing, not murder, not stealing. These mitzvahs all make sense, but we've got to remember that the real reason that we do it is not because that they make sense, but because Hashem commanded us. And this is reflected with the mitzvah of the red harf, because that mitzvah is illogical, but nevertheless we listen, we do that mitzvah. That's basically to show us and to bring a certain light and tell us, you know what, all of the mitzvahs in their foundation, they are not logical. We do them because Hashem commanded us to do them exactly as we do the mitzvah of Parah Adumah, of that red harf. So that's why this mitzvah of Parah Adumah that we learn in our parsha is so important, because it's basically the foundation to all other mitzvahs, because it's illogical, because we cannot understand it. But one person did understand this mitzvah. Throughout the entire Jewish history, one person did understand the logic behind the mitzvah. And when he did this mitzvah, for him, it was as if he respected his parents. The same logic. He understood it. Who was it? Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu understood this mitzvah because Hashem said, Lecha ani megale ta'am para. To you, I will reveal the secret of this red harf, of this Parah Adumah. So Moshe Rabbeinu did know the reason for Parah Adumah. Interesting. That means that Moshe Rabbeinu obeyed the mitzvot, did the mitzvot according to his understanding. And not because this is something that Hashem commanded him. This is not because, or even though it's illogical, Moshe said, you know what, I'll do it. Moshe Rabbeinu is lichayra, he's lacking something here. He's lacking this feeling of what we call receiving the yoke of Hashem, the yoke of the mitzvot. Moshe Rabbeinu understood it. It wasn't hard. It wasn't a yoke for him. So Moshe Rabbeinu is lacking, in a certain way, this important mitzvah, this important approach to the mitzvot, this feeling that we do it no matter what, even if we don't understand it. Moshe Rabbeinu understood it. So where is Moshe Rabbeinu's red heart? Where's this kind of mitzvah? So the truth is, and this is an amazing idea, this reflects on our whole connection to the leader of the generation, to Moshe Rabbeinu and to the Rebbe in our times. Moshe Rabbeinu might have understood the logic, might have understood the reason to that mitzvah, but he did not feel it. Why? Because there was another Jew that did not understand this mitzvah. And because Moshe Rabbeinu is so connected to the Jewish people, he feels each and every one of us. That's why if we don't understand the mitzvah, he doesn't understand the mitzvah. If we do not know why we actually obey this mitzvah, Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't understand that either. He doesn't accept it. There's some kind of blackout there. Why? Because Moshe is deeply connected to us. A true leader of the Jewish people is connected to his people in the highest way possible. They are one. They are literally one. That's why we said Moshe Rabbeinu prayed in the first place. Tfilah Moshe. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu pray? What was he lacking? He prayed because he felt what we are lacking, what we don't have. This is our connection to the Rebbe. Our connection to the Rebbe is all about that he feels us, he understands us. If we lack something, he lacks something. That is why Moshe Rabbeinu could have this approach to the mitzvot in the same way we had the approach of obeying no matter what, even if we don't understand. Moshe Rabbeinu understood, but he did not accept this understanding. Why? Because other people did not understand it. And here I would like to end with another very interesting story about a South African rabbi, Rabbi Shabtai Katz, and his wife, his Rebbetzin. They basically went to South Africa. They became rabbis in a community, and they went to Yechidus to the Rebbe. Private Yechidus. They entered the Rebbe's room, and they had the opportunity to ask for whatever they wanted. And they spoke about various issues, various things. He consulted with the Rebbe about the approach to his responsibility as the leader of the Jewish community there, of his shul. What approach should he take against apartheid? Should he speak? It was still in the time of apartheid, but it was closer towards the end. I don't know exactly which year, maybe the beginning of the 70s, middle 70s, late 70s or late 80s, somewhere between that timeline. And he consulted with the Rebbe what to do exactly to speak against it, because he had connections to the government. He couldn't really speak totally against it, but on the other hand, he wanted to talk about the bad side to it, and the fact that you can't abuse any kind of population, any kind of people. It's against the Torah's laws. So that was one thing that he discussed, and he asked the Rebbe what to do. And then the Rebbe turns to his wife, the Rebbetzin, his Rabbanit. And the Rebbe tells her, probably you're finding life difficult there in South Africa. Probably it's a big challenge talking to your kids that when they go to birthday parties, they can't eat whatever they see because the treats, the candies might not be kosher. The fact that they have to show a different kind of behavior must be very difficult. And the Rebbe really showed his understanding to what they were going through. And when she describes, once again in this book, it's an amazing book, when she describes the whole conversation with the Rebbe, she says that it's as if the Rebbe walked into the house and listened to the conversations that were going there, the complaints of the kids. Well, we want to go to this party, and why can't we eat this? Why can't we? The Rebbe actually felt them. The Rebbe actually was there. He heard the conversations, the complaints of the kids. And this once again shows us another discussion that she describes is the Rebbe told her, well, the kids want to go play soccer or they want to go play cricket or whatever it is, but they can't because there's Hebrew school on Sunday. They've got to take part in the Hebrew school. So this once again shows us the deep connection of the Rebbe to each and every one. Each and every individual, the Rebbe really feels them. The Rebbe feels what's happening, what's going on. And this is the biggest lesson to us, Gimel Tammuz. Although it's been many, many years since 1994, the Rebbe still continues. The Rebbe still feels us, the Rebbe is still with us, and we could see it by his shluchim, emissaries, all around the world. Shavua Tov, and thank you very much.